Welcome to the Autism Action Update. This is my podcast. I'm Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara, Chair of the New York State Assembly's Subcommittee on Autism and Spectrum Disorders, and we're continuing with our next segment here, or at Proctor's Theater, back at Proctor's Theater. The last podcast we shot at the state capitol, and I'm very pleased to say that I'm here with my son Michael. Michael's joining me on this. You were actually my first guest, Michael. Can you give me a little thumbs up? No? No thumbs up today? Okay, well, there's a thumbs up. Okay, he's here. He's here with me today. I'm very pleased to have him. As we discussed, this is April. April's Autism Awareness Month, isn't it, Michael? Yes, it's Autism Awareness Month. Michael's very excited to be here today. And we just finished a couple of events, actually, at the aquarium in Rotterdam, via Aquarium. We had our annual Autism Day, and we welcomed quite a few, 2,500 registered guests at that event, and quite a few families that were able to take advantage of a sensory-friendly environment. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little while here. That was a really strong statement for Autism Awareness Month as to how many families actually participated in that one local event, and there are a number of events happening throughout the month of April. And we had our annual Autism Action Day, which we I think summarized very well on the last podcast about what exactly transpired there, and the legislation that was talked about, and the quite a few organizations that showed up to that. It's great to see that event is actually growing. We're going to have a nice little video that we'll be posting on our social media and our website that will give you a little insight if you weren't able to attend as to what was discussed on that. We had very pleased to have Milo the robot, which is new technology. Robots for Autism are the designers. You can look up more about Milo and his siblings that are available to now teach kids with autism. They're specifically designed to show emotion and expression. They can express themselves and deliver some social learning skills to kids like Michael, kids like my son. So we're very excited to see where that goes. We're actually hoping to have Milo on the show here on a future podcast, something that's very exciting for us. So going back to the aquarium, it's very nice to see that more organizations and more events that are looking to be all-inclusive to accommodate sensory needs. And at one time, sensory needs was not something that was spoken about, was talked about so commonly as it is today. We talk about things like direct care. We talk about autism. We have autism days. We talk about sensory needs. We talk about the more than 128,000 New Yorkers with developmental disabilities. That number, I'm sure, has grown by now. But we talk about things like employment for those with disabilities here in New York State. We talk about a number of things. So the conversation is changing, and that's great to see. In Autism Awareness Month, it's just one more opportunity to participate in events like this. And it may not be that you have a son or a daughter or a loved one or someone in your family. You might, but you might not. It may not affect you directly. You may know someone in your community, but your participation gives New Yorkers with disabilities a stronger voice, gives all those with disabilities a stronger voice. So it's important that you look for these events. You can find them on my website. You can find them a number of ways, and I'll give out the information on how to sign up for my newsletter, where we send out a lot of information about events happening in our community. Today is actually a very nice day. It's in the 70s outside. So we're Michael's here because we're going to be heading over to a new section of the Canalway Trail. That's the bike trail, known as the bike trail. We're going to be heading over there to check that out because it just opened not long ago in October of last year, and now this is the first spring. And I bring that up because that's one more thing that is sort of an all-inclusive, the accessibility improvements that went into this 5-mile section of trail that connects Pattersonville to the south side of the city of Amsterdam. So Pattersonville in the Rotterdam area, all the way to Amsterdam, and it takes that gap that was actually on a busy highway, Route 5, that was an off trail. You had to actually go on the side of the road, which was a busy road, to complete this section of the trail. Now you don't have to do that anymore. But what we also included, Michael was there for the ribbon cutting when we opened up that trail. One of the things I spoke about was how it is all inclusive. It is something that you can do with your kids, and you can do it as a family. And there's accessibility accommodations that have been provided, and it's great to see that those accessibility accommodations are made. They're part of the design. It's just like a standard thing that people look for in every design that we do. It's great to see that. We have really come a long way with that. And that brings me to my next sort of personal experience. I was invited to tour a water park. And this is interesting because it led to a number of other things. I went down to the state of Florida in Orlando to originally tour a hospital that had a sensory-friendly, autism-friendly emergency room and a training program. And we talked about that on a previous podcast where we talked about how that has actually become a reality now with a pilot program with Ellis Hospital. So I was invited to tour that hospital, but at the same time, I also made a stop at what's called Aquatica, and it's a water park, and there's a number of water parks in the state of Florida. You see them all over the place. You see them up here as well. But what was special about this water park is that it was certified as it received a designation as a certified autism center. So something that I really had to investigate a little more and check it out. So I got to see. I took some great photos that I'll be sharing. But it was certified by an organization that you may or may not have heard of. It's called the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards, IBCCES. And you can Google this or look it up, and you can find out what they're all about. But they have a number of certifications, and it goes back to what we were just talking about with Via Aquarium, which now is actually working on this certification. So it's great to see how this information becomes available and we're able to adopt it here. And that's really what my Autism Action Plan is about. It's about adopting things like this. So Aquatica became Orlando's first certified autism center. And what does that mean? There was a number of accommodations made with the staff that is trained. There were quiet areas. What I saw is a number of areas that had signage. They had each section of the park had different categories as to what what level of accommodation was made for sensory needs. So this is great. This is great for kids like Michael to see. They go to a water park to be able to know what areas can be where he can be accommodate his sensory needs, and what areas maybe are not as accommodating. But there's a chart. And again, it's a certified autism center through this organization, IBCCES. They went through. There's the training. We saw one of the quiet areas where sometimes kids need quiet areas, so they were able to get away from all the noise and all the things happening in the park. But then when you go, like I have a picture in front of me now. This is called the toddler splash and slide area. So it says there's a little sign, and it says guests 48 inches and under may play, life jackets recommended. But then, in addition to that, they had these 5 categories. So one shows a picture of a hand, which is the touch, what level of touch that would be, and it scored a number 7. Then there's a taste. There's a picture of a sort of what represents a tongue, and it has scored a 1. And then there's hearing. There's a sound, an ear. It scored a 3 for this particular area. Then nose, smell. It had a 1. And then there was a light category that this particular ride had a 5. And then there was other ones where these numbers were a little different, but they all mean something. They all mean how much sensory overload there will be, or you can expect in that area, as far as touch, as far as light. If a child or a person has an issue with light sensitivity, that 5 means something. So you can kind of gauge where you're going to go in the park, what areas are good for a particular person with any particular person with autism or related conditions. This is not just autism we're talking about. We're talking about other conditions as well. So it was an interesting tour, and I hope to bring some of this back here to our Autism Spectrum Disorders Advisory Board here in New York State to see if there's something we can do here in New York to make this information available for whatever the case may be, whether it's state parks or whether it's something we're working on with the aquarium in Rotterdam. They're actually working on this certification where you will see this signage. So it's something that's that we've partnered up with them to make this information available, and they're working on getting the certification. So I'm excited to see when that actually happens, to be able to see these categories and what they are rated for. But we hope that I hope that this sets an example of what can be done, how organizations and how attractions, parks, and any sort of community activity can be sensory friendly, can be all inclusive, and can provide more information, because that's really what Autism Action is about. It's about providing information, removing the barriers to communication, helping everyone understand. You may not, people that come to this park may see these symbols and these ratings, and maybe they will understand what these sensory needs are, and have more information for themselves, even if they're not directly affected by autism or any related conditions. So I wanted to talk about that on this podcast, because I think and I'm going to be doing more research on the IBCCES organization itself, because there is, if you go on their website, there is a number of categories in healthcare, education, even businesses, corporations, workplace environments. The list goes on and on. So there's a lot to go through. But that was my personal experience with visiting Orlando, to tour this park, to be able to bring it back here, and now to be able to work with the aquarium here in Rotterdam, to be able to bring something like this that helps families that are affected by autism, helps them manage their day and manage where they're going to go. And I'm hoping that down the line in the future we will see more of this, and I know that we will, because we are moving in that direction, and it's very exciting. I'm heading over, as soon as I'm done here, to this bike trail. Michael and I are going to be walking and checking out the accessibility and all the new improvements in this. Yeah, we're going to be going there, Michael. We're going to be checking out all the improvements. So Michael and I are excited to head over to the new bike trail, the Pattersonville-Amsterdam 5-mile connection. Number of great accessibility accommodations, some great views. If you are in the area, you should check it out yourself. Again, it's great, something we can do as a family. It's all inclusive. That's what I love about these projects. I love all projects that are all inclusive, and everybody can participate. No one's left out. No one's left behind. So we're going to be checking that out. In the meantime, look for my next podcast. Here, we'll most likely be here at Proctor's, but we may change location. We'll see how that goes. But to stay up to date, Autism Action Day, we just finished it at the state capitol. I want to thank everybody, all the organizations, for your participation. Thank you to everybody that attended. We did post a nice video on my social media that you could check out, and it summarizes it quite nicely. And we had a number of speakers that you should take a moment to listen to and hear what they had to offer at Autism Action Day. But I also want to mention a number of ways you can stay up to date on the work I do all throughout the year as chair of the New York State Assembly Subcommittee on Autism Spectrum Disorders. You can also get updates on my Autism Action Plan. You can hear about recent legislation, the latest news, and of course events happening in my community in our community by signing up to receive my Autism Action Alert newsletter on my website. That website, nyassembly.gov/Santa Barbara. You'll be able to find it, sign up under the contact information. You'll get the email updates. You'll also get things in the mail when we mail them out, when we have things that we want people to know about, or legislation coming up. I also have a Times Union blog that you can read at www.timesunion.com, and usually we try and keep the blogs consistent with the podcasts and everything else that's going on, recent legislation, and so on and so forth. So you could check that out. There's a number of blogs there to talk about issues related to autism as well. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast, the Autism Action Update, which is fairly new, available on iTunes. If you listen to a few episodes, take some time to give me a rating, share it with your friends, and hopefully we can spread the word that I'm doing this blog, and it's just one more way that people can stay up to date. So for now, we're going to sign off. Michael is getting anxious. He's ready to go. We'll meet you right back here for our very next podcast, the Autism Action Update. Thanks for joining us.